Husband and wife couples, do they work in business? Well, this couple do. Not in just any business though, in a multi-million-dollar business. Kane and Alessia Minkus come and join us on the Spencer Lodge podcast in partnership with the awesome Najahi, and they share with us their secrets to making their relationship work whilst being business partners and having a blooming family, for goodness sake. Cue the music, you'll enjoy this one. So, Kane, thanks for coming back on the show, and thanks for being in your very glamorous wife.
That's my
Thank
I
you
know,
very much.
I know there's a lot of people out there wondering how on earth it happened, but obviously the chemistry was good between the both of you.
Look, begging seems to really work. You just got to be persistent.
Now, you guys are, I don't know another couple that do what you do from stage, okay? Here
It's
at this
very
event,
complex.
you know, Rich Ching
We know another couple either.
You
than us.
don't know?
No, there's almost, I don't think there's anybody else in the world that does what we do.
And what,
Not like we're the best. It's just, I just don't think anybody else does it.
Oh, well, I think actually it's quite a difficult thing to do because of potential choreographing and stuff like that. And it's either something that you've rehearsed a million times, or actually you've got such a sense for each other. And
I'm glad it comes across that way.
Definitely not the first one. Just say that. Let's leave it there. But
there were a couple of moments today where you went, yeah, okay, Kane, you can carry on. But I mean, the work that you've done all over the world. I mean, I've known you in a year, and I've seen you here, I think 4 times already in the last year. Now you live in Italy and you live in the United States, so you know you're a long way away from here, really, aren't you? But you keep coming in. What are the people like in the UAE? How are they different to the other crowds that you talk to? And what's better and what's worse? Let's be honest about it. Yeah.
do I start with what's better?
I'll do what's worse.
You do the American.
Leave all the dirty work to me.
Brilliant.
That's great.
So what we really love about the UAE is the
Hummus.
well, that's that. But it's how many cultures come together here.
Yeah.
So I really love that element of how everybody works together and lives together, and how this sparks a lot of creativity, innovation, and just that desire to keep evolving together. So that's something we love a lot. One of our passion is really, doing business internationally and getting really deep into the cultures, the different cultures, understanding the belief systems, understanding, what is actually moving them forward and what is holding them back, which for every culture is slightly different. So that's something we're very passionate about. And here we found in one very tiny country, so many different cultures working together. So it's very interesting to notice and to be part of that and to understand how to really help, everybody grow together while kind of helping them individually.
Now you kind of do something that I don't see anybody else do. It's kind of like it's a very holistic approach to helping people grow their business.
That's exactly it, actually.
And so when you look at that holistic approach, I'm sure that in different countries there's different things that people want more than other things. Would that be fair?
That's totally correct.
So what do they want more here in the UAE? What do you notice that they want more of here? Is it is it branding? Is it speaking from stage? Is it I mean, I can go on for the next 10 minutes explaining what you do, but can you just give us an idea?
Well, what they want, I actually don't see is so different around the world. I think everybody wants to make an impact.
Yeah.
They want to be able to live a life that they're passionate about,
Yeah.
doing what they think is their purpose,
Yeah.
and making a difference and making enough money to feel like they are living a nice life, able to contribute to the people they love, secure and take care of their families, things like that. That's pretty universal. We're in 32 countries a year. We train around 50 to 60,000 business owners every year and have for over a decade. So that's very, very common across the world. What is a little different is the values of getting there, and the things that are sort of drivers or motivations. Those are different across different cultures, and that's something that we have been very passionate about understanding and learning, because we always get a little chuckle when someone says, "Oh, I'm a global business." We say, "Oh, really? What do you mean?" They say, "Well, I got a website up and people across the world can see me." Yeah. It's like, well, okay, people can visually see you, but understanding cultures is something we're very deeply passionate about. So we've spent, over a decade, 200 days a year, we're traveling to different countries, spending time with our students, understanding what's going on, what's working and not working. And the reason is that it helps us understand trends that are working in areas where we can bring those trends back to other cultures and say, look, in Sweden, they're doing this, it's working great. In the UAE, they're doing this, it's working great, and it hasn't come to France yet, or it hasn't come to America yet. Let's try that, because you can get ahead And there's an old saying from a great mentor of ours, Mr. Richard Branson, who's, if you really want to get rich, you got to figure out where the world is headed and get there first.
It's really interesting you say that, because there's always parts of the world that have just got somewhere. With tech, for example, they've got somewhere first. And we always used to look at the US as being a lot more advanced than we are here. People would say, Dubai's 5 years behind the US, but then they would say Abu Dhabi's 5 years behind Dubai and stuff like that. That's the battle that goes on.
It's a little bit like Los Angeles, San Francisco, right?
Yeah, probably
There's
right.
always got to be a divide. That challenge actually really helps the evolution, though, right?
Yeah.
It's actually a very healthy challenge.
Now you see that, and having the opportunity to see that and then bring that to an audience beforehand, it's almost like you've got a head start on everybody else. Anybody else that's learning, you have that, because you could bring something to my business that I might not know about because you're being exposed to it before me.
There's a lot of problems we've seen in your business that we'd like to address.
But that's part of the value that we bring to our community, and part of the value that our community brings to itself, and community members bring to each other, is the fact that it's such a global community, like 32 different countries, business owners contributing to one community. It's very powerful because they can share what has been working and not working in their businesses and in their countries or cultures, and therefore that exchange makes everybody stronger, because again, that knowledge helps them get ahead of their local competitors.
Now, we've seen over probably the last 5 or 10 years, the whole women pushing forward in business and growing and becoming more impactful. That my life has always been women. All of my businesses are run by women.
My
5
life
businesses.
has always been women. That's a great line.
my parents got divorced.
We have that in common.
I'm saying it in the best possible way. Stop shooting down. So my mum and dad got divorced when I was 7. Dad went bankrupt. Mum had to bring us up and us and the kids up, and she had 3 jobs. And so a strong, powerful woman in my life, yeah? And then in my businesses, I find women are more effective at running businesses than men. That's what I found with my businesses. But what I find really interesting is at these events, when you're on stage talking, I'm in the audience talking to people, and people are saying to me, how do I get on that stage? But you know what? It's not men, it's women.
Yeah.
I want to get on that stage. I want to do that. And when they see people like you get up there, it's like, I really want to do it now. No, the lady, hold on a minute. There's a gauge. There's something ahead of me. There's a marker. And so I noticed that women want to be up there more than anybody else.
Well, even because women have historically and still are not very well represented on stage, unfortunately. I mean, every conference that we're going to in here, me and Ona, Les's daughter, were the only 2 women advertised for this event. So still to this day, 90% of the speakers, at least at every event, are men. And when we look at the audience, the proportion is completely, inverse.
Women in the audience.
Right, it's 70, 80, 90% of women in some of the audiences, all listening to men. So obviously there is that desire of actually, changing that and being more visible up there and more represented.
We just know that in households, women generally, are more dominant than men in many marriages. Your personality, I know for sure. Those scales are definitely. But I say nothing. But when we see that in business, there is that challenge. Tell me about you 2 living together and then working together. How do you act?
We actually don't live together because it's easier.
Give me honestly. Hold on. Before you tell the story, I want you just to be really honest about this, because I think this is really important.
Story.
Okay, good.
Okay. We were delivering an event in Hawaii last week.
I'm not sure I know this yet, so I'm listening. Go ahead. What are we going to share?
We arrived on day 3 at the event, and somebody brought us a gift. Now that gift was 2 knives, a very peculiar gift, right? My comment was, oh my gosh, Kane, that's so good that they didn't give it to us yesterday. We didn't have it last night, because it would have been very, very dangerous.
We had like a knockdown argument the night before.
That's how it is to work together.
So you hide the knives.
I think he had them already, and he was like, she better doesn't see them.
So how does it work really though? Because you're definitely, look, we all see you on stage. We see the performing, the delivering, the kind of like the sharing, and you have a job to do and a business to run. But come on, there must be times where you sit down at home and it can be frustrating being married, because you're in each other's pockets for a huge amount of time, aren't you? Whereas in my life, I go to work during the day And I come home in the evening and I see my wife, she's done her thing separately and I've done my thing separately.
So I think this is actually why there's not a lot of couples that do what we do, because actually it takes a very evolved person to deal with me.
I wasn't expecting that.
So Alessia and I actually have tattoos on our arms that indicate that we're soulmates. We have the same tattoo. It's not as easy to show mine, but the point is that we actually feel like we're really the same person, which was amazing because we met when I was 36 and she was 30, right? Roughly like that.
Roughly.
And so we were, more in our adult lives, and we had actually followed very similar tracks: our health, our fitness, our mindset, the personal development work we had done. We had done, almost 2 decades of personal development individually. When we came together, and when we even met in the moment, it was like two souls that just had been together. We always said we felt like we had spent lifetimes together, and that's how we feel. We joke that we're anima gemella, which is Italian for twin flames or twin souls. So I think that there's a very unique connection, and we really do. We have a lot of respect for each other. I think she's absolutely magnificent and brilliant, and she is. And I think the feeling's mutual. And we both have spent a lot of time understanding how to respect and engage in partnerships. So we've run a lot of companies prior. I mean, that's our background as an entrepreneurship. Together, we've run over 40 companies, and we've always had partners. And we've often also worked with family.
Yeah.
And so the dynamic with family.
Your family.
Well, different families, but our family. I was working with her family before I knew her.
Each one with our family. One of my businesses before that was actually a family business. So if you think that working with your husband is tough, try working with your parents.
Really? You work with mum and dad?
That's like a walk in the park.
And today, my sister she's our CEO. She runs our company with us, and my father is our CFO.
Really?
Yes. And so it's really, and in her family, she was both of her parents.
The real boss is our 8-month-old that comes with us everywhere.
Our 5-year-old daughter. She's the real boss.
Right. So it's really a family affair.
But that, I didn't know that. That really is a family affair.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
And it takes a special kind of couple to be able to really make that work.
Yeah.
So it's not just this, but it's everything, right?
We were just with Dean Graziosi, who's partners with Tony Robbins,
yeah.
and we were doing interviews with him, and he actually paused and said, "You two are so cute together." And he says to the camera, he says, "And they're actually like that off camera too." And I said, "You barely know us," like that kind of thing. And the point is, actually, we are very much like that. How we are on stage is actually very much how we're off stage. Alessia and I rarely fight. We have, rarely, but when we do, we have, she's Italian, passionate. When we do, it blows up. But it's rare. And I think it is very important. When we're on stage, we also have to really, being a duo on stage, where it's not scripted. We're not scripted at all. We've always worked off of improv.
It's not rehearsed either.
No rehearsal. Nothing. No. We just
it's very polished.
Well, and we've
instinctively
we have done it many, many times.
Of course.
So we do, hundreds of events every single year.
Well, and we discuss each time, how can we do it better and really be more effective for the audience? Because we're there to serve the audience. We're there to teach and make sure they get a lot. And of course, they're not there to serve us. So we can't have our stuff on stage. We need to be a synced message and a synced team to make sure we're more effective for them. And I think having that duo is very effective when it works. So we spend a lot of time understanding, and Alessia's super feminine, and I'm a very masculine personality, so that dynamic works well on stage. Because they get the masculine, feminine approach. She's European, I'm American, so there's that global difference and
cultural differences.
Different values, different. So it's a very dynamic thing, and it all comes down to respect.
Well, I think it's respect and it's really commitment. Commitment really to communicating, because things can get a little bit heated up sometimes, but there is that commitment from both of us to really be in communication and work through things. So
she's amazing. When I met her 7 years ago, she didn't speak English.
Did you not?
She didn't speak English. She just a little bit, just enough to kind of, get us to the nice places. But she, when I met her, we could barely communicate. We used a lot of Google Translate to get along. And she's such a fast integrator. This is her 5th language. English is her 5th language. And so I actually, I had developed this company in my speaking career. I was on huge stages. I met her. She was in the audience of a 3,000 person arena. I was on stage with Robert and Kim Kiyosaki teaching.
This is true, really?
Yeah, she was in the audience.
This is true.
And I'm in the audience saying,
I was running my businesses in Italy, and my coach at that time told me to come to an event just like the one we are at right now. So kind of like a multi-speaker event. And I had literally never been to one. And to this day, I've never gone to an event other than the ones that I've spoken at. So I got kind of, thrown into this whole situation. And at some point, Kane came on stage.
There's a little bit more of a background. Her coach says to her, come to this event. You never know who you're going to meet. She says, no, I don't want to go to the event. He goes, what if you meet the man of your dreams? She says, I'm never going to meet the man of my dreams at an event like that.
That's true.
Oh yeah, but was the attraction? Was it like straight away?
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
It was like.
She has to say that.
Okay, was the attraction straight away?
Yeah, it was like electric.
Yeah? As soon as you saw it?
It was instant soulmate connection, instant.
We only spoke for 5 minutes before he left.
Because you didn't speak much English either.
Well, there wasn't that much to talk, right?
Yeah.
Because
give us a kiss.
Well, so I was on
5 minutes
stage.
together, like literally.
Yeah, I was on stage and we offered a program and people had questions. So we had to take all the participants out into a hallway and answer their questions. And she comes walking by and she gives me a big wink. Yeah, just walking by.
More or less.
Well, that's what I saw. I don't know what happened. It could have been like this.
She had something in her eye.
Yeah. Right. And
she's like that. It's like, I thought it was a wink.
Right. And she is walking by and I'm stuck. So I stick up my hand and I, say, come on, come over.
He waved at me and I said, I'm not a waiter. Like, I'm not going to a man. It just, waves me over. What
I thought I'm being all smooth. And she's like, what am I, a dog? I'm not going to a man that's calling me. So her friend says, go talk to him, right? So she comes over and she says, are you Jeff or Kane? Which I was presenting on that guy. And we just started talking. We had 2 minutes. That was all we talked. And I got her card and we started connecting. But it was instant electricity. Like, those moments where you just know, right?
Yeah.
And you had asked earlier about decisions. Why do people make decisions? And I think it's that intuitive sense of, the question is, are you willing to take the action? And this is something that we have conditioned ourselves and we condition our audiences to say, stop knowing but not doing. Because after knowing comes fear. Mm-hmm. And we have conditioned ourselves to take action fast because we know that if we sit around and we think about it, we're just going to start the doubt and the fear and the concerns. So when I met her, one of my first questions was, are you open to having children away from your parents, away from Italy? And
seriously, one of the first questions.
Yeah. I knew, right? I was like, are you okay getting married and moving? Well, and
were you a bit taken back by that?
We spent 5 minutes together, right? Then
you didn't find a room at that time, though. Yeah?
We started to text and email and message, with Google Translate, etc.
Yeah.
And like less than 24 hours after we met, he had left. He went on for, it was a whole part of a tour, so he moved on. I received this text like, how would you feel about having kids away from your family? And I was like, is this man really asking that? Like 24 hours after we met? Like, be honest, how did that actually make you feel? That once you got past, is he really asking it? Did you make you feel really warm inside? Well, yeah, of course. That's part of, is he really asking that? Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh.
Actually, she didn't quite understand the question because I had a child already. So I was asking her, how do you feel about having the child
having your
while
child.
you're away from the parents?
Can you babysit? I could talk for hours about your relationship. Right, let's just talk about how we help people here. We're here at the Najahi's event, Ching 3.0. You were here last year and you've been, as I said here many times, you're doing this all over the world. How are you helping people? What are you doing?
How do we help people?
My father's still wondering what we do. He has no idea. Here's how we help people. I mean, so Alessia and I have gone through the success and the tears and the goods and the bads of running businesses. What we help people do is have a softer approach to
a smoother ride
to getting to success. Really what we're doing is we're helping people take what they love to do in their lives and create businesses that serve their hearts and their passions in their lives and their wallets. Mm-hmm. So they can put all of it together, because I think a lot of people in the last generations grew up believing you had to sacrifice for certain things. Mm-hmm. I think women often, as Alessia says, they feel like they have to sacrifice their careers for their families, their children. Our parents felt like they had to sacrifice maybe in their relationships or with their businesses, or they had to sacrifice their passions for their careers, something stable. And it's just not our generation. Our generation is not about sacrifice. Our generation is about creating and having it all. So what I think we do is we help re-encode people from an education of you have to sacrifice to create it all. And that comes in the form of business for us, is to learn how to take what you love to do and turn it into products or services, find people across the world you can serve, and make money helping people.
Yeah. And really, have businesses that ultimately serve the lifestyle that people want to have. So often we meet people, whether they are, wanting to start a business because they want to create a certain freedom and lifestyle for themselves, or sometimes they are in a business already and they feel stuck. They feel like they are serving the business instead of the business serving them in order to create the lifestyle they want. So we turned it around and we help them really create businesses that are helping them, accelerating that creation, and therefore experiencing more of what they want in life. So the best part is when we engage with our students and people that we work with, and we get all these stories about how their life has changed. I have a sweet spot for kids. I'm a mom, and I have a sweet spot.
This is good.
So for me, every time somebody comes back and tells me how their family life has changed, and their kids now go to private school, or they're taking them on trips all over the world, and that wasn't possible for them. It was something that was not part of the reality. It's a tangible experience of how our work has really impacted that family and therefore their whole community very often.
There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that get into being an entrepreneur because they've been in a certain industry. They feel that maybe they could set up on their own and do it better themselves, and they want to be in control of their destiny, and they buy into the having more freedom and having more wealth on the back of doing it themselves. But the majority of them fail. Let's be honest about it.
Well, that's when we meet them in our rooms. Like normally they're a few months or years into that, and they've discovered that they don't have much more freedom than before. Actually, very often,
less.
They have less. We had one woman actually during our last event here that she stood up on day one and she said, I've started my own business, etc. And now I think I actually had more freedom before, when at 5 o'clock I was done and the weekends were off, and now instead I'm working all the time and I'm working for very little money, and so I feel like I'm busier and more almost a slave of my business right now.
I think the thing that stops people embracing the kind of stuff that you offer as much as they could, I think sometimes is ego and pride. Because
for sure.
It's like not wanting to admit defeat, and by reaching out to get someone to coach them and help them, sometimes that's putting your hands up on the white flag and saying, I haven't been able to do it on my own.
Sure. Well, men especially.
It's interesting, exactly. It's interesting you say that, because there is actually an interesting dynamic. That's very often something that is stopping men, is saying, oh my gosh, like, my ego would be hurt if I accept somebody else's help. It means that I wasn't able to figure it out on my own. For women, I think it's more of a matter of undervaluing themselves. And so really saying, do I really deserve that? Do I really deserve much more? Isn't that enough? Should I be happy with what I have? And so there is more of like a little bit, as women, we tend to culturally being a little bit encoded that we should be happy with what we have. We shouldn't actually play such big games. And, it's subtle, but it comes from all sorts of places. Culturally, family, etc. And we are the ones that sacrifice themselves for the family, and we are the ones that... So very often women are a little bit more cautious, and they feel like should I really invest in myself? Maybe what I have is good enough, right? So there are different dynamics very often, and that's what we see very often in business, which is why it's so powerful to have, Kane's brilliance and my part as well, because a man and a woman, we can see things differently, and we can connect with different people and therefore help them get unstuck, because men and women very often go through different sabotage patterns in everything, like whether it's marketing and therefore being visible, whether it's sales and therefore building the community or asking for the money. Like different things are hard, or different belief system come in the way of men and women very often. I mean, it is generalized, of course, there are exceptions, but we can see patterns. And so that's very powerful when we can work together and help them unstuck.
You've done this for some years now. You've had great success helping many people. where are you going? Where are you heading? What's your mission? I know you could say more of the same.
I want a vacation. That's
I want some cake. So this for me is always something I'm really interested in. Okay, you hear Tony Robbins, I want to serve this and that. Da, da, da. I want to know where you're going. That's for me interesting. Where actually are you going? Is it just more, or is there something somewhere, a line, a place?
So something that's very unique about Alessia and I, in terms of what we do in the industry, is we actually both grew up in very wealthy families, and we were very, very wealthy early on. And I know most people they're like, now they hate us, right?
Yeah.
But actually, it gave us a very interesting perspective that a lot of speakers, educators, trainers, authors don't actually have, and that is that we understood very early on that money was only going to deliver so much. It wasn't going to deliver happiness. It wasn't going to deliver fulfillment. It was just a tool. So we actually had both of us have very little motivation around money. It's very, very little. We've always been surrounded, and even when our businesses have gone through hard times, it's not that we haven't gone through hard times. We've certainly gone through super hard times with businesses, or I ended up at 20 years old, homeless and broke. And we've gone through money, challenges, but we've never been driven by it. And so because of that, we've always just played games that seemed fun and challenging. And it's usually impact games. So whether we could bring something out to the world and help more people because it seems fun, or whether we would do stuff with charity, we've raised millions for charities and just played those games to say, how can we do that? Or whether we just enjoyed the satisfaction of challenging people or just giving back to others what we received from having great mentors and advisors, or just the fortunate nature of being born in the families and the opportunities that we were born into. So we say, okay, how can we go back and serve? How can we serve more people? How can we do more fun things? How can we continue to build more wealth for our families as well? Because the more wealth you have, the more impact you can make. If we want to build schools, years ago we were working on building schools, Version Unite and things like that. So it's really, to us, it's a lot about fun. That's one of our core values, is how do we have a lot of fun? And even when we're having fun and businesses are not going well, we're still connected to that. Are we having fun? Typically, if we're having fun, the businesses are going well. Yeah. And if we're not having fun, we can usually see them going. It's not tied to the money. It's actually tied to the fun.
Yeah.
So we're driven a lot by how do we have fun and help people and serve people and just make a difference and contribute. It's a little bit of, Tony Robbins, talks about these 6 core needs, contribution, things like that. So where we're headed now is to continue to challenge ourselves to help more people. So we're moving into things around technology. We're opening different divisions of our company. We invest. It's one of our main things is we invest in business owners. We're not actually coaches. We're actually investors. What we actually do is we find business owners to partner with and invest in them because
and then help them build the business on the back.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's your money in it now, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So we're a portfolio business where we add businesses to our portfolio. Certainly it develops our wealth, but it allows us to help others. Because we can't do everything ourselves. And something that we definitely learned by hanging out with people like Tony and Richard Branson over the years is if you want to really go past what you can do, you need to be investing in other people and other companies and other opportunities. So that's really what we're up to. And the cool thing is we find some really cool businesses and really cool things, whether it's in health, alternative health. We've worked with companies that are doing natural weight loss with cryotherapy things and, all sorts of cool stuff that helps and serve people at very natural levels. We're big natural maniacs about health and fitness and natural stuff. So we love finding companies, conscious companies, people that are up to serving people with their products or their services and then keep investing in them. So it's not like we have like a goal, like we want to do 1 million whatever this year or serve 1 million people or, feed 100 million people. It's really just what's challenging and fun to us, and then we kind of create those.
It's a really good way of looking at things. Really good way of looking at things. Look, I could sit and talk to you two all afternoon, but we have to go shortly. But thank you so much for coming and taking time to talk to me. I really appreciate both of you being here, and it's really lovely to see the chemistry between you two. Okay, genuinely it is. I'm a little bit jealous, if I'm really honest. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, there we have it. What a lovely couple they are. Alessia, that passionate, hot-blooded Italian, and Kane, the cool American, a husband and wife duo that really do know how to keep it together. You could see secretly in that interview that she definitely wears the trousers in that relationship, and it was just great to see how they get on so well, how they've been able to bring a family into the world, but also build such a fantastic business and work with incredible people. Kane and Alessia really are game changers, and hopefully you've taken some real positives from that. And if you did, then great, you'll want to watch some more episodes. And if you do, click there, because if you click there, you're going to get a chance to see a lot more episodes that I've produced. If you click over here though, you'll do something that will make me really happy. That means you're going to subscribe to the show, and if you subscribe to the show, you'll never miss an episode. And we have so many fantastic guests that I promise you won't want to. So click over there, subscribe to the show, press the bell button, and make sure that every episode comes straight to you whenever we do it.